The 2024 WNBA season is off to a hot start. You see the hoodie. If you're watching on YouTube, you already know what today is going to be all about. Especially, obviously, you see the title of this episode, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about all things the W today. Pun fully intended. For example, the Connecticut Sun are the hottest team in the league after they had a quick 9-0 start and continue to look like the contender they've shown to kind of be over the last few seasons. The New York Liberty are right behind them, though. They're kind of in revenge mode after last year's finals defeat. And then there are still teams like the Lynx, the Storm, the Aces. And, I'd even throw in the Phoenix Mercury in that conversation as far as teams you can't sleep on. Rookies like Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Edwards, Caitlin Clark are just hooping. And the league as a whole just continues to grow, with expansion on the horizon and more eyes in front of the TV now. Lots of good stuff to talk about in the W today. And I want to get into all of it, like I said. So I hope you're excited also to get into all of it. And that's going to happen right now on H2DG. Welcome to Hip to the Games, the podcast for you, the basketball junkie and the hip hop head. I'm your host, Desmond, and I too have had hoop dreams and enjoy the beautiful genre of hip hop and its history. Together, we will enjoy some of the greatest albums, songs, artists, players, moments, teams, and so much more, while even mixing the two on occasion, all in my hope that you remember why you love both or either of these to begin with. You'll soon understand that Hip to the Games is more than just a podcast. It's a lifestyle. And if you were looking for a platform that combines both basketball and hip hop, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the newest episode of Hip to the Games. If you happen to be new here, first off, welcome. It's great to have you on board. It's great to have you here. And if you are a loyal listener, welcome back. I really appreciate you continuing to support your boy week after week. But first things first, as always, I got to give my special shout outs. The first one always goes to the creative director, Jesus Christ, for another H2DG episode, as it's always a privilege and a blessing to get in front of this microphone and do what he's put in me to do. And the second one, you see the logo in the corner. It always goes to my 19 Media Group family for the platform to represent the home team. Not sure if I pointed to the right corner, but you know what I mean. It's always a privilege to represent the blue and white. We got a great network of passionate independent podcasters, and I strongly encourage you to tap in with all the different shows around sports, music, culture, and show some love to everybody. Any listens, views, comments, shares, reviews, ratings, merch support, all of that is felt and genuinely appreciated on that end. So, like I say, I know I can speak for myself when I say, I really appreciate all the support that I do get, whether that's on social media, in person, if you're rocking the merch, whatever it is, I feel and appreciate all of it. As far as today's episode, though, I'm back with the format that pays homage to the classic hip hop song structure. I got 3 verses for you today, which represents 3 topics for the show. The first verse always has to set the tone. The second verse always brings the climax or the rising action. We got to build momentum as we get towards that last verse. The third verse always has to be the haymaker, the best for last. And I'm excited to get into today's episode, or I guess proverbial song, for going with that analogy still, as I want to talk about the WNBA. I'll admit, as somebody who has enjoyed the W way before we even started calling it the W, I haven't given them their proper shine as much as I could have. So I want to start, being a part of the growth and not the opposing side, for lack of a better term. So I definitely want to ramp up my W content on Hip to the Games. And that starts today. And I just kind of want to open up with some general thoughts because we're really seeing a big jump in WNBA viewership, right? And, with more eyes equally comes more praise and critique. And I think we've been seeing that a lot the last few weeks. And the thing I just keep thinking of is how when the WNBA celebrated 25 seasons in 2021, I remember tweeting something along the lines of like, yo, like we got to realize the WNBA is still very young. Like 25 seasons is still very young. Like when the NBA celebrated 25 years, Kareem was like a rookie or something like, or like it had been his first season at that point. And, I think we got to keep that perspective, because we don't realize how bright the WNBA's future really is, I think, and can be. And I think that's still what I said in that tweet really still rings true today. Like, especially now, we're experiencing their growth in a fully grown, post social media world. So we have access to not just our neighbors or our peers close by and their thoughts, or maybe, it's some of us who may be the only ones in our circle that watch the WNBA, right? But like now we're at a point where we can really see everybody's thoughts around the world pretty much about the WNBA. And, you know, it's a lot to deal with. That can be a lot to deal with if you're in this stage. Like if you're in the WNBA, whether you're a coach, a player, executive, front office, in head of the NBA, whatever it is, commissioner, things of that nature, like that's a lot to deal with, knowing that the whole world is watching you grow and they can say something about it. And, so like we got to think too, like the way that the WNBA, they're still struggling to provide charter flights for the players, right? Franchises, there are some franchises that are finally getting like state of the art practice facilities and things of that nature. They're hitting those milestones. I think I'd like to think too that, one day when players won't have to go overseas or play basketball, out the country to keep playing and keep the money coming in. Doesn't this all sound like what the Bill Russells and the Oscar Robertsons and the Bob Pettits had to go through back in the day, right? Like the NBA today isn't what it was in year 25, right? And likewise, I think even in the NBA, the WNBA under 30 years still, they still have such a long way to go. And we got to keep that perspective in mind as we're watching it grow. And again, I think to my point, like the difference is that we're seeing all this in this modern area, right? Like we are a generation that is able to witness something like this in our lifetime. We weren't, a lot of us were either kids or barely around, if at all, when the NBA was going through that. So now we're able to see it from the WNBA perspective, and now we can all tweet about it and all these things, and it can create all this controversy, stuff like that. Um, and we grow up in school learning about technological advancements and technology's always changing, the world's always evolving, and we learn about women's rights and all those things. And so it can be a bit staggering to see that even in 2024 we got to witness these women go through a seemingly slow and steady growth period. You right, you would think that it would be a lot more accelerated in this modern era, but that just hasn't been the case. Um, but to even touch on too, that's just off the court, right? Like now think about what we're seeing on the court. Like we've watched Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, Tisha Penichero, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi. Yes, I'm gonna name them all. Becky Hammond, Katie Smith, Lauren Jackson, Tamika Catching, Sylvia Fowles, Candace Parker, Maya Moore. So many great, outstanding players. And I still haven't even named the stars of today. And that's in just under 30 seasons. Like, imagine what it will look like when the WNBA celebrates 50 years, when they celebrate 75 years. So I think a lot of times I would just like to remind us all, breathe. Like, the WNBA is going to continue to be amazing. Like they are still just getting started, as wild as it sounds. Compared to where the NBA was at 30, we technically, right, if you think about that time, we technically, we've seen Will, we've seen Bill, we've seen Jerry, we've seen Elgin Baylor, Oscar, Julius and Kareem are just getting started, right? And then keep in mind, right, when the NBA turned 30, we had still yet to see MJ, Magic, Bird come through, right? And obviously the WNBA has plenty of iconic players, but from a yearly perspective, this is just an analogy I'm making to illustrate how young the WNBA still is. So I always try to keep this perspective when watching the W. Like, dang, we've seen some dope, incredible basketball. And you mean to tell me it gets even better after this? Like, sign me up. Sign me up. So that's kind of my preamble for today's episode. All right. We're gonna get into the beauty of the WNBA. All right, and that starts with verse 1. And for verse 1, I want to talk about some standout teams. All right. You heard me mention a few of them in the intro. And speaking of standout teams, there are some teams balling in this early part of the season. And the ones that I specifically want to talk about are the Connecticut Sun, the Minnesota Lynx, and while they do have a losing record at the time of this recording, I do want to talk about the Phoenix Mercury as well because they've had an interesting start, but like they have a super competitive dynamic. So those are three teams in particular that I'm going to talk about in this first verse. All right. Now, of course, before I really get into that, though, I did want to shout out, like this is no diss to the New York Liberty, right? Obviously, their trio of Stewie, Sabrina, John Kell Jones, like that's outstanding. This is no diss to the Aces, who are the defending champions, right? But with Chelsea Gray out, from that injury that she suffered from in last year's finals. They flirted with a 500 record early on here, right? We know the Aces to be better than that, and I think that's really a testament to how impactful Chelsea Gray is, right? Like they're missing their glue girl, so yes, they're a 500 team right now, but when she comes back, you'd like to think that they're going to start making strides towards looking like that dangerous contender we've seen over the last couple seasons. And although Asia Wilson, right, I gotta shout out Asia. She's having a historic season already. Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, they're doing their thing. They both have the knack to like score and play make. So the fact that the Aces have those two has just been a cheat code for so long, right? And might I add too, picking up Tiffany Hayes, was a dope addition to what is already a championship team. She was always an impactful player on both ends of the floor. She can score, she can defend, she can pass. Like even as she's older, she still plays some impactful basketball, and she's found a nice role in this team. So that was a clutch pickup. But like I said, Chelsea Gray is the game changer, and that's the game changer every team wishes they had. And the Aces have missed her dearly. But I also want to shout out the Seattle Storm as well, because they got Jewel Lloyd some familiar help this year, right? With in the form of former Notre Dame teammate Skylar Diggins-Smith, who's back this season after giving birth to her second child last year. And they also acquired former MVP and Stanford great Nneka Ogwumike, who is one of the most consistent bigs we've seen. I mean, the definition of consistency. She's not flashy. She's not the loudest, but she darn sure gets the job done. She's efficient from the field. She can make threes. She knocks down free throws. She's still a really good rebounder and solid defender. And that's a great core that they kind of have getting that big three together for Seattle, especially in the post Sue Bird era. Jewel Lloyd continues to be the elite scoring threat that we've come to see over the last few seasons, right? Shout out the Gold Mamba. But getting those veterans in Sky Dig and Nneka Ogwumike, like that's really helped this franchise kind of get back to their winning ways. So, shout out to these players and these teams, but let's really get into the nitty-gritty, all right? And I want to start with the Connecticut Sun. Now, I just want to get this one thing out the way with the Sun. This franchise has found a way to be really good for the last several seasons. Like even with multiple coaches, right? And unfortunately, they were just always one of those teams that they can be absolute contenders, but they just don't walk away with the trophy by season's end. In 2022, they lost in the finals. In 2021, they went 26-6, and yet they still lost in the semifinals. And then they lost in the finals back in 2019 as well. So, some recent deep runs for them, some recent like kind of top records in the league. But they've had their chances and fell short. But I do think, I think this year might be different. And I'm trying to trust my gut here because I had the same feeling with the Boston Celtics, and I'm kind of having similar feelings with the Connecticut Sun. Although yes, I'm aware that the Liberty exists. I am aware that the Aces are still, they're going to get Chelsea Gray back at some point. But I think their swag is different. For example, Dejanay Carrington, I mean, in her fourth season, she's finally made it as a full-time starter, permanently being in the starting lineup after finishing second and sixth player of the year last season. And I think you can see her confidence with this promotion, right? She's still a really good defender. She's often guarding opposing teams' best scorers. I love her energy that she brings on that end. She's hovering around 12, 5, and 2 averages, all career highs for her. Her shooting numbers still have great room for improvement. I think that's something that, they got to watch out for. But, I love the way that aside, her overall impact makes this team better. That's what I like about the Connecticut Sun. And then, of course, there's Alyssa Thomas. I mean, she's like a pitcher getting a perfect game. Like, she has such a high IQ. She's a versatile player for the Sun. To me, I think she should really be mentioned up there with Candace Parker when we talk like elite versatility. I would throw Tamika Catchings in there too. More so defensively. She wasn't as good as a playmaker as those two women, but when you watched Candace, it was like she could do no wrong. Even her bad games looked good, right? Like even in her bad games, she made the right plays. Which kind of sounds like a contradiction, but I think you know what I mean. Like even if she's shooting bad, right? She can still defend. She can still get the rebound. She can still set a good screen. She can still get a nice assist, right? It's those kind of things that you like when you see Alyssa Thomas, and she has that similar effect. She's a triple double threat night in and night out. Again, there was once upon a time that wasn't really a thing in the WNBA, right? Triple doubles were like pretty rare. But Alyssa Thomas is the last few seasons has made this thing look easy. She's averaging 12, 10, and 8 this year with almost 2 steals a game. Like I said, she makes the right plays. She can guard inside. She can hang on the perimeter. She's like the perfect point forward to lead the Connecticut Sun. And then another starter that I actually want to shout out is 2021 Most Improved Player and 2022 Sixth Player of the Year, Brianna Jones. She's another reliable front court player for the Sun. Her minutes and total rebounds have taken a hit because she had the Achilles injury last year. But she's still very efficient. And she's kept some of that aggressiveness, at least on the offensive glass. You can still see the flashes that she's kind of getting back into her rhythm and her form and everything. And I really think there can be an argument for the Connecticut Sun to have the best front court in the league. Like I said, I know that can be a stretch. I don't catch all the games, but having Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Jones, and DeWanna Bonner, right, who even at 36 years old is still out here making it look easy getting these buckets. And it's funny, like I remember DeWanna Bonner's rookie season in 2009. Which fun fact, her first 3 years in the league, she won Sixth Woman of the Year. Like that's crazy. But I remember watching her. She was such a young but confident scorer for a Mercury team that was contending for championships. It was dope to see Diana. Obviously, she was in her prime doing her thing, but then you got this rookie, this skinny rookie who's playing like she's been on the biggest stage before, and again, that Mercury team, they won it all in DeWanna's rookie season, right? But me and Devon used to watch her like, man, she's like Kevin Durant. Like, she's a slender build, but she's tall, and an absolute bucket. She can shoot the lights out. Like, and that's never changed. Even this season, she's putting up some of her best scoring numbers of her career. And that's another huge part of the Suns' success this year, with I think such a blend of chemistry and talent, this team looks poised to get the job done this year and walk away champions, I think. It will be tough. Like I said, the Liberty exists, and they're looking just as hungry. The Aces can still get into form, and we still got to see who else is, going to be competing out the West, right? But so far it's looking like, they'll have to overcome the same team that knocked them out last year. Again, that good old James Brown revenge. You know what I'm saying? If they can overcome the Liberty, they got a real shot at the title this year. So, I have to say I like their chances at revenge this season. And then I want to move on to the Minnesota Lynx. Because man, listen, this team at the time of this recording is sitting at 10-3. They have one of the absolute best players in the league in Nafisa Collier. And it's like nobody cares because like they'd rather waste time talking about whatever ESPN chooses to discuss repeatedly, right? But I mean, like 22, 11, 4, 2.5 steals, 1.5 blocks is crazy. Nafisa Collier is stuffing the stat sheet, man. And the W, this is what I love about the W. It's full of players with this kind of versatility and this kind of two-way ability, right? Like that Candace Parker influence, again, that's how I see it. The Candace Parker influence is ridiculous. I mean, but in general, right? There's so much skill in this league that you can't help but appreciate. In just her 6th year, Nafisa Collier just continues to improve her game. And again, I think it just comes with increased opportunity. I think she's really, gradually taking on this load of being the go-to girl, especially after the season she had last year, hitting the 20-point per game plateau, and I think that's great for the Lynx because it's leading to wins, but keep in mind, she also has an absolute sniper in Kayla McBride. Uh, she has an absolute sniper on her side, and she's shooting an astronomical 49.5% from deep. on 7 attempts at the time of this recording, which is absolutely mind blowing. You know how cold you got to be to make almost half of your threes on more than 5 attempts a game? Like, I remember Kayla McBride. I remember watching her in college at Notre Dame. Like, she always had a jumper. She always had a trigger. But the way she's in her 11th season, shooting her best, not just from behind the arc, but literally everywhere. She's got like career high shooting numbers in every category. Doing that in your 11th season, like that's just amazing to me. That's amazing to me. And then like this is the same team who acquired Courtney Williams in the offseason as well. You know, she's kind of been a journeywoman in her WNBA career, more particularly these last 3 seasons. As it featured a reunion in Connecticut, a stint with the Chicago Sky, and now she's contributing with Minnesota. But she's really a spark plug, you know, and I think, you know, her energy always stands out. You know, she's kind of got that energetic personality to her. But it shows in her game as well. You know, I think she can score, you know, but even at just 5'8", like she's averaging about 11, 5, and 6 on a career high 1.5 steals so far. So, you know, I felt like in previous years she was more of a scorer, kind of like a microwave kind of player, but I think now that she's been able to play with other scorers, you know, other really good players, for example, Dewana Bonner, Kalea Copper, and now Collier McBride, she can play more of that all-around role. Like, okay, I'll get the bucket if you need me, but hey, I can do other things too. I can rebound, I can pass, like I can set the game up for y'all. Like, and it's really dope to see her be one of those difference makers. You know, Courtney Williams is like the definition of a difference maker. And again, that's why again, you want that on your team. And I think that's why the Minnesota Lynx have been playing as well as they have this season, because they have a player like her. Again, one of those glue players who just can do a little bit of everything, is happy in that role, right? It's always great when they're satisfied in that role too, you know. And you know, she's been such a difference maker, like I said. So and really on every team she's played for. So it's really dope to see her balling out for Minnesota. And you know, that's what I want to say about them, man. Don't sleep on the Lynx, because you know one of the franchises in this league's history with four rings are certainly trying to return to their championship tradition as well. So they definitely got a dope squad out there as well. And then lastly, there's the Phoenix Mercury. Okay, now look, I know what you might be thinking. You know, I know they may be 6-7 at the moment at the time of this recording, but Brittany Griner has still just returned. Right, she's only played the last 3 games. Like, if this team can stay healthy, establish some rhythm, I think they'll be a very tough out. You know, they'll be a tough team to beat in the West. Because you can argue that they pretty much had the best offseason, acquiring 2 ultra competitors in Kalea Copper, who's a WNBA champion, in a Finals MVP, in fact, and Natasha Cloud, man, like dog. Kalea Copper, like I said, was the 2021 Finals MVP. She literally just came off a season being the #1 option for the Chicago Sky, almost averaging 19 a game. And now in this season in Phoenix, she's averaging almost 24 games so far. Like, she's been hooping at her highest level yet, and you just love to see it. And then as far as Natasha Cloud, I mean, she's one of the best winners in the league. She's a mature leader, you know, again, high energy, but such focus and poise. Like, you love to play with players like her. And you know, I think we've seen her over the years again be that feisty competitor and leader for the Mystics. You know, even last year, right? Remember how despite the loss, she had a fantastic elimination game versus the Liberty. I mean, she was guarding Sabrina Ionescu the whole game and then still put on a great offensive performance in her own right. And, you know, I think after losing Skylar Diggins, that's exactly the kind of point guard Phoenix needed to fill that similar role that Sky Dig did, right? Like, again, Sky Dig played some of her best basketball in Phoenix, great leader for that team, led them to a lot of victories. You know, they made it even to the WNBA finals at one point. Like, I think Natasha Cloud can do that very, very, very similar thing. Again, she's one of my favorites in the league, and it's nice that, you know, I think for Diana Taurasi, especially, you know, now she's 42 years old, still playing solid basketball. You know, she can still get buckets. She's averaging like 17 a game. And then, you know, even Brittany Griner too, right? Like how the that duo now has 2 extra reliable playmakers in Natasha Cloud and Kalea Copper to take some pressure off them. And this is still, you know, with Griner just 3 games, you know, picking up where she left off. She's averaging 20.7 rebounds, just under 2 blocks, still an all-star caliber player. And you know, like again, I still haven't mentioned the impactful and competitive 3 and D wing that Sophie Cunningham is, who comes off the bench for them. Like Phoenix has a great core right now, and they might be able to send Diana off right with a ring. Of course, unless she decides to do it again and say, "Hey, I'm coming back," she might be playing till she's 50. But my main point is this: Phoenix has a great core. You got Cloud at the one, Taurasi at the two, Copper at the three, great rim protection, and a dominant inside scorer in Brittany Griner. Even Natasha Mack, she was starting for them while Brittany was out, and she's getting like 2 blocks a game, right? So now you have Brittany Griner, but then off the bench comes Natasha Mack, who has a little bit of confidence because she was previously starting, and she's got some rhythm to her. She can lead that second unit, and still now, even when Brittany Griner sits, you still got a reliable rim protector down low. So I'm excited for Phoenix. I really am. I think you got a lot of options to work with offensively. And like I said, there's that defensive versatility. And, because I think in the past, Phoenix, they struggled when Brittany Griner was like neutralized inside or if she was in foul trouble. And I think it forced Diana Taurasi and Skylar Diggins to really just carry so much of the offense. And that didn't always create the best ball movement, right? I think it made them a little more predictable. Teams were able to sit on them. But now they can break that bread a little more, and they can create different chances offensively. You never know if tonight's gonna be T Cloud's night, or maybe the next night Copper's gonna go off for 35, right? And then shoot, Diana Taurasi going, drink out of the fountain of youth, and she might drop 27 on 6 threes, right? Like they can be very tough to guard this season if all goes health wise. And I really do like the Mercury. I like what they got on paper. Again, as Brittany gets more games under her belt and they stay healthy, I would really like to see Phoenix get over the hump and really make some noise this year because they got a dope team. They got a dope team. So definitely some interesting teams and situations to watch this WNBA season. But I want to know, what team are you looking at as the season progresses? Who are some other impact players that I might be sleeping on as well? Please comment below or hit up the show at Hip to the Games on all platforms to share your thoughts with me, as I would love to see them. But in the meantime, if you enjoy listening to Hip to the Games, here's how you can show your love and support for the show. As a fan of Hip to the Games, not only should you show your love for the podcast, but you gotta express your love for basketball and hip hop. With a wide variety of clothing and accessories, there is always a way to show how much the game of basketball and the game of rap means to you. Let everybody know what it means to be hip to the games by clicking the link in the episode's description to cop some merch and represent the H2DG lifestyle. All right, welcome back to Hip to the Games, where I'm talking all things WNBA. And while I just got done talking about some standout teams, I want to talk about some standout rookies for our second verse of today's episode. In particularly, I want to talk about Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and Caitlin Clark, of course. I'm sure that was expected. If you know me by now, I like being different. I don't like to talk about what everybody else is talking about. Obviously, there's a time and place, right? We all have thoughts on the hottest topics, but like I said, I know that was expected, but that's exactly why I want to show some quick love to Aaliyah Edwards and Rickea Jackson as well, because I think for Aaliyah Edwards, she's on the Mystics. They're down there at the bottom, worst team in the league. But she's been starting the last few games now, and her production and usage has increased, and she seems to be gradually figuring things out. As always, I think most rookies come in the league, especially bigs, they struggle with foul trouble. They struggle with the physicality. They're trying to get used to the physicality. They're trying to get used to the pace of the WNBA. And, especially if you're on the worst team in the league, that can be hard, very hard to find some rhythm offensively. But Aaliyah Edwards, in my eyes, has shown some small glimpses of what she can look like as a focal point of this team in the future. I'm not sure if that's exactly how they want to use her in the future. Obviously it depends on who they draft in the future, things of that nature, what kind of team they assemble. But I feel as though they're really trying to get her comfortable getting the ball, getting touches, and being a go-to girl, because she's already had multiple games with double-digit rebounds. She's shown a knack to protect the rim. Remember, this is a girl that, a woman that was once projected to be a top 2 pick. And although raw, I certainly think she has the talent to be a star for Washington. And then as for Rakia Jackson, she's in an interesting situation in Los Angeles. De'Erica Hamby is having a career year in her 10th season. And then she's really the only player averaging double figures. You got some other women who are close, but it's really De'Erica Hamby, and then it's like solid pieces like Lexi Brown, Kia Nurse, Ari McDonald, and then the rookies, Cameron Brink and Rakia Jackson. And I think like a few other teams in the league, they kind of have this do it by committee structure here. I love that. I love teams that do it by committee. Again, I know that those kind of teams get a lot of flack come playoff time because it's like, you don't really have a go-to scorer, but to me it creates some of the most fun basketball to watch because there's so much ball movement, so much team ball, so much chemistry with these teams. And I think the Sparks are developing that kind of structure. Now, I did mention again, those teams kind of struggle having a go-to scorer, but to me, Rakia Jackson is likely going to be that girl for this team. Because even in this early part of her career, she's already shown to be a fearless scorer. In particular, she dropped 16 points in a win versus the Aces. And then, if you watch, like she hit some clutch buckets in the fourth quarter to not just help the Sparks take the lead, but, eventually win the game. And to show that kind of confidence as a rookie, that got me excited, especially on a team where there isn't a true go-to scorer on the perimeter yet. Like at the time of this recording, she is their second leading scorer behind De'Erica Hamby, even though, like I said, it's lower numbers, but she is the second leading scorer, and I think her confidence is showing in that regard. And I see her filling that role that they're going to need as they seek to be a winning team. I see her filling that role as her career progresses. So, shout outs to Rakia Jackson and Aaliyah Edwards. We see you. All right, hip to the game, sees you, and it's good to see y'all figuring it out and balling. But moving on to the big three, if you will, I want to start with Angel Reese because she's another player that has benefited from the influence of Candace Parker in my eyes. I was telling Devon the other day that while she can certainly be a fantastic rebounder, she's like this tadpole version of Candace in the sense that she wants to make the plays to help her team win. Like Angel Reese is not trying to score 20 all the time, right? She's not, and she kind of doesn't always show her face up game, right? She's really trying to lower that shoulder, get in your chest and get an and one. Um but like even in interviews, right? She doesn't always want the credit, she doesn't always want the spotlight. Very selfless player. Um and I don't see her playing with this pressure or angst to live up to her hype, to live up to her fame, right? She just really seems like she wants to be a really great basketball player. And I love that. She crashes the boards, she swats shots, she runs the floor, she picks pockets, like she is just a basketball player. And she's going to continue to be awesome to watch. I think much like Asia Wilson, too, it will become even easier to root for her because she plays the game the right way. And she's a great example for young girls. I see, and if we really being specific, though, I see her like a Rebecca Brunson, Candace Parker blend, and like if you remember Rebecca Brunson, fantastic rebounder, physical rebounder, for the Monarchs and not the Mystics, the Monarchs and the Lynx, right? Great team player. I really see her blending that team player kind of leader that Candace was, but also like the physical like goon, that Rebecca Brunson was. And I really see that in Angel Reese. And even at the next level, right? Very physical, very physical. And again, I think that's kind of her Baltimore, upbringing and her inner, be more coming out because, while, the media is talking about how some rookies can't hang, there's one rookie that's hanging. And if you watched the other night, when they played the Storm, she went right through Nneka Ogwumike. I mean, it's like she wasn't even there. And I said, "Dang, Angel, you gonna do that to Nneka? Like this is an MVP. This a like I said earlier, this is one of the veterans. This is one of the best WNBA players of the modern era. And you gonna just run through her like she ain't nobody. Like that told me everything I needed to know about Angel Reese in the WNBA." She doesn't care who's in front of her and her confidence is really paying off. She kind of had a rough start, but I think it's been up ever since. She quickly got a rhythm going on, especially on a team that likes to share the wealth. It's been great to see her show some immediate impact when, some people questioned whether she would have success in this league. And even at the time of this recording, right, that the Sky and Fever just wrapped up, and unfortunately this the hometown Chicago Sky, they lost. But Angel Reese, again, like I said, she was crashing the glass. That team with her and Cardoso, they're going to be an amazing rebounding team. Angel Reese is already a great rebounder. Like I said, she again the Baltimore connection. She's a lot like Carmelo Anthony. The way I see her get an offensive rebound and just immediately tries to go up for a putback. That's what I love about Angel Reese. She's not passive, and she gets that rebound and she's always looking to put it right back up. And that aggressiveness, even for her to be so young, that's only going to get better as she gets wiser and stronger in this league. So, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from her, and her transition has been dope going into the W. And then there's Cameron Brink, a player who's also shown immediate impact with the Sparks, a lot more defensively than offensively. But even on both ends, she has shown her flashes. To me, she's probably the one rookie who genuinely looks like she's been in the WNBA before. You might look at her 7 points and almost 6 rebound averages and think, that ain't really nothing special, Des. But the eye test tells a different story. She has a great feel for the game. Her footwork in the post is really good. I think she times her steps well. She times her movements well. Her catch and pivot work is pretty flawless already. She can catch and finish and just make sharp reads offensively. And I think it really translates the best defensively too. She already looks like she's ready to become an all-time great defender in this league. She's already averaging 2.6 a game. Again, her skill set is a testament to the overall skill set WNBA players tend to have. Because if you notice, Cameron Brink doesn't always jump for blocks. And if you're a guard, right? Like, because even me coming up as a guard, especially a smaller, quicker player, you think about that, right? Because big men who love to get blocks, they're easy to pump fake oftentimes because they're so hungry for the block. You can just see it in their eyes, like, oh, I got the matchup I want. I'm gonna swat this to the fifth row. One good head fake and they're done, right? But you don't see that. You see this maturity with Cameron Brink to where she knows, like, nah, I'm staying down. I'm gonna get this block. I'm just waiting on you to shoot it because I'm gonna go get it. And to that point, she often contests shots with two hands. You know, again, it's very fundamental. She has a very fundamental approach defensively, and I love that about her game because you don't always see that stuff. Obviously, you see it more in the WNBA, right? But like that's something all basketball players, all if you're a big man, last line of defense, you want to have that same approach, and you want to conserve your energy. You don't want to be jumping for joy out here trying to swat every shot, stay down, use your length to your advantage. You don't always got to jump. Just put your hand up. Most guards or even forwards are going to turn around or try to alter their shot or whatever. And that's going to be to your benefit. So again, I think she's a great intimidator down low and will continue to be as her career progresses. You would like to see her be a lot more consistent shooting the ball, and even converting shots around the basket. That's something I noticed too. The thing about Cameron Brink, no player, there should be no reason that a player at her size, 6'4", she should be shooting under 40% from the field. Again, I haven't caught every game, so there might be other reasons for that. Maybe they're just, again, she's got to get used to the physicality. Maybe it's foul trouble, right? Her rhythm is off, who knows? But again, she's got to get more consistent from the field, especially being a big man out there, or big woman, I should say. Trying to stay out of foul trouble. These are things that she especially with the fouls, these are things she had to overcome at Stanford as well. But she has all the tools to be a special player defensively. And if I'm being honest too, she really impressed me shooting from beyond the arc. She has such a smooth jumper and very comfortable out there. So it's dope to see her when she gets in rhythm from beyond the arc. So again, she can make some great strides still, but even then, as a raw talent, she has shown a very impressive game, especially on defense. And then last but certainly not the least, Caitlin Clark, the woman of every hour, it seems, right? She's gotten a lot of attention on and off the court, and rightfully so, right? But can we focus on the basketball part? Cool, cool. All right. So Caitlin Clark is already flirting with 16, 5, and 6 averages. That's incredible for a rookie. Showing that same all-around game she displayed at Iowa. And but the thing you also appreciate is that she's a gunner. She hasn't shied away from the WNBA. That's what I love about her game. She's been fearless, and it's great to see from a player who had so much hype coming in. Many people have compared Caitlin to Stephen Curry, which definitely, and again, you could say Diana Taurasi, right, for their off the dribble 3-point ability. However, to me, she's always been more James Harden than she is Stephen Curry, due to her passing ability and her rebounding ability. The way that she can put an entire team on her back, it reminds me more of the James Harden, more of the Luka Doncic. And she's shown flashes of that with the Fever. But the thing is, which I even tweeted recently, much like Luka, the league is testing Caitlin's gangster right now. And she ain't always getting that whistle either. She's with grown women now, so that's to be expected, right? She's got to take those punches, but she's also struggled with the turnovers heavy, as she's almost averaging as many turnovers as she is assists. And at this level, that's not going to cut it. She's averaging 6 assists a game, 5.5 turnovers. Like, that's really cutting it close. And again, right, Caitlin is a rookie and she's already getting double teamed, triple teamed. She's getting blitzed. You know what I'm saying? That's to be expected. Caitlin, over time, she's gonna learn the WNBA game. She's gonna get used to the pace. It's gonna slow down for her. She's gonna learn the best ways to get her teammates involved in the flow of the offense. Protecting the basketball against high pressure defenses. All of that is gonna come over time. But personally, I would like to see a greater effort in getting Aaliyah Boston involved more. Because I think in Iowa, she didn't necessarily have a low post option, so everything could go through her. Again, right, when you're Luka Doncic, when you're James Harden, like, these are players, they really, you really surround them with shooters and lob threats, so everything can run through them and they can get their numbers. The role players are going to knock down their jumpers, get their few dunks in, and y'all are going to cruise to wins. Like, that's the kind of, I think that's really the team that Caitlin Clark needs around her. But at the same time, I wish that they would just recognize that, you have one of the best and more promising low post threats in Aaliyah Boston. Get her the basketball. Let her post up. She's strong. She's great, I think, in the post with using her like a low base. And she backs her defender down. She gets good position. She can finish at the rim. I think they need to use her, like, they need to find a dynamic that can work with the both of them. Because again, Aaliyah Boston, her numbers have dipped just a little bit in some areas. Again, because having a talent like Caitlin Clark now, but I would love to see that dynamic work out for the better. Because again, in my eyes, if you're Caitlin Clark, you want a player like that on your side. Like, you don't want everything on your shoulders. Like, especially, obviously they're not going to make it this year, but when you start getting in the playoffs, you start winning games. Like, you want to feed your big. You want to feed. Again, I think Aaliyah Boston can be an all-star, perennial all-star in this league, right? She's got the popularity for it. She's got the game for it. Feed her the basketball. Find a dynamic that works. Uh, let's be a little bit more Kobe and Shaq as opposed to, prime James Harden. See if you can find a really dynamic duo, kind of find a balance between those two all-star caliber talents. Because again, they're both going to be all-stars in this league. But I would just love to see them find a way to balance their talents. I don't want to see Aaliyah Boston's talents get wasted simply because it's the Caitlin Clark show, right? So that's just something that I've noticed watching the Indiana Fever. Um, but individually, Caitlin, she's still an amazing player. Dare I say, generational talent. While she still has room to grow as far as consistency, maturity, efficiency, she's already proven why she was the number one pick to begin with. So, I think it's safe to say that the WNBA will continue to be in great hands with the way this rookie class handles business on and off the court. I know there's some mixed reviews. Some people feel like the rookie class ain't all that and it's overhyped. But I've really been seeing some dope stuff. Even again, to mention Camila Cardoso, right? Like, for her to get healthy, she runs the floor very well. She gets really good protection on the rim. Like I said, her and Angel Reese killing the glass. Shout out Kate Martin, from a young woman who didn't necessarily expect for her name to get called. She goes to the defending champions and she finds a role over there. Man, like it's dope to see. This is a really good rookie class. Anybody I feel like that disagrees is just player hating at this point. But like I said, the WNBA's got a bright future with with these young girls who've been doing their thing. And so it's gonna be dope to watch. But who else from this year's class has stood out to you, whether I may have mentioned them or not? Be sure to leave a comment whether you're listening or watching. You could tweet the show as always at Hip to the Games. Tweet with a rookie that may not have been mentioned, and I'll be sure to repost it, reply, all that good stuff. But before we head into our last verse, here's a reminder of how you can support your favorite NBA team even during the offseason. The 2023-24 NBA season is here, and there's no better time to cop the flyest and authentic merch to rep your squad. If you're looking for the ultimate destination for NBA gear to rep the home team, look no further than the NBA store. With an extensive selection of authentic and high-quality products like jerseys, hats, and accessories, the NBA store has everything you need to express yourself. Word to NWA. And with an online presence, it becomes even easier to shop from anywhere in the world. Don't miss out on the latest trends and experiences. Visit the NBA store today by clicking the affiliate link in this episode's description. Hip to the Games is working in affiliation with the NBA store and will be compensated for your patronage by utilizing the link provided. I sincerely thank you for all your support. All right, welcome back to H2DG, where we'll get into the last verse of the episode, which will cover the recent WNBA expansion news plus the final roster for the 2024 Olympics. All right, so a nice little two-pack here for verse 3. So first off, the WNBA recently announced that the two new franchises are set to join the W by 2026. Next year is going to be the Golden State Valkyries. They'll join the league, and then in 2026, the city of Toronto is going to have a WNBA team set to debut. So it's great to see the W put some action behind expanding the league and not just hit you with oh, we're working on it, uh like especially in a league where there's so many players, especially first and second year players. You think of Bria Beal, right? Like who get cut not because they aren't good, but because there are only so many spots in the league. So for them to get, these two expansion teams, I'm excited in that regard. But at the same time, I'm a little bit discouraged because, as iconic as the Houston Comets are, winning the first 4 championships in league history, the WNBA can't find a way to bring them back. Like, to me, that's a franchise that won the first 4 championships for your league. They have 3 of the most iconic players in the WNBA: Tina Thompson, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper. And now, but like they're just not a team anymore. Like, to me, they should be first priority. They should have been first priority. Again, same thing. The WNBA, they can't bring back the Sacramento Monarchs, the Charlotte Sting, and I even heard there a rumor that they might be trying to bring back the Detroit Shock. Like, outside of Charlotte, these are franchises that won WNBA championships, yet they don't exist anymore. Like, I understand the business side. You can't just wake up and add 4 teams. They need owners. They need there needs to be a mutual agreement between the respective cities and the league itself, right? They need an arena. They need sponsors. They need an organization again. They need coaching. They need to know that they're gonna have a solid fan base. I get it. But man, these are 4 teams that should have never left the WNBA. Like, you could still add and eventually add 6 teams within the next several years. You got the 2, Toronto, Golden State, and then you got the 4 who were formerly active, right? I think it would be great timing considering the growth the league has experienced as well. Spread your reach, bring these franchises back. It's no better time now because more people are going to be watching. Social media, all that stuff is blowing up. Like, the WNBA is they're growing. So like, bring these franchises back. I think all 6 of these teams, like I said, the 2 that have just been added, and then the 4 that I just mentioned, I think they're all great cities to have a WNBA team in. The fan support would be there. I think especially like if you kind of compare it to the NBA teams, like, look at the Pistons. Not that good. So let's go to a Detroit Shot game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have that balance. The Sacramento Kings have finally made the playoffs and stuff like that. They're a little more, they're better than what they were the last like decade. Now would be a great time to bring back the Sacramento Monarchs. Now have 2 teams that are like on the come up, right? Like I think I wish the WNBA kind of pushed towards that a little more. Um, and just get these franchises that have won for the league and put on for the league and bring them back. Uh, I think as for Golden State and Toronto, though, just keeping the focus on them, it's really a dope opportunity because the Valkyries could potentially start their history with Paige Beckers out of UConn next year. And then you can't help but wonder, if any of these teams will kind of tank for the next 3 years to try to get Juju or out of USC, or, maybe a different expansion team will come into the play by the time she's eligible to be in the draft. Definitely some interesting things to think about. But like, once again, I just think, point blank period, the W continues to grow. And it's nice to see them taking some proactive steps towards a better and brighter future. So, shout out to Toronto again. From what you always hear and see, great city, passionate fans. That's going to be awesome for the WNBA. And then Golden State, honestly, there's a part of me that's like, I think they're ready for the Warriors to kind of go downhill. And then they'll let the WNBA team kind of come up, especially if they get a talent like Paige, to lead that franchise and start their journey. That'll be interesting to see. Honestly, and I don't know about the light purple and dark color scheme. You know what I'm saying? I felt like, I always thought it was cool when the WNBA went after their NBA counterparts, but at the same time, I like when they go different. But I don't know about like the light purple, like the lavender, and I feel like they could have probably got a different color scheme. But it's cool. It's cool. It's still a cool logo. Cool colors. Obviously, if you're winning, you can make it all look dope. So we'll see how they do with that. But yeah, so shout out to the WNBA getting some expansion teams in there. But switching gears, the Team USA roster for the Olympics, the upcoming Olympics, recently came out, and while there was controversy that stars like Caitlin Clark and Arike Ngubunwale didn't make the team, I just want to point out that this entire roster is fire. Fire. I even heard Paul Pierce say, "Oh, I would have added Caitlin and Angel Reese for hype." I ain't really know nothing about the other USA team. Like, they would have made me watch. Man, get out of here. We've been watching USA women's for years, even before I was born. When it was Dawn Staley and them, like when I was still like a baby, I know people love that team with Lisa and Dawn and everybody, and they've always been dope. They've always been dope. Like, you mean to tell me that the guards for this team, if healthy, are Chelsea Gray, Sabrina Ionescu, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and the great Diana Taurasi. And then for forwards, you got Nafisa Collier, Kalia Copper, and Alyssa Thomas. Mind you, I literally just talked about a lot of these players in this episode. Then you got Brittany Griner, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson as centers, or maybe even like hybrid, right? Like forward centers. Like, bro, this team is gonna eat. This team is gonna eat. And there are players who are on the Olympic team. I think there are players who are on that Olympic team from the COVID year. And then, you got somebody like Diana who's earned a gold medal in every Olympic since 2004. Therefore, chasing her sixth gold medal with this team. Like, anybody that thinks this team is missing a piece is tripping. Like, again, I respect it. Like, Arike Ngubunwale, fantastic player. Caitlin Clark, it would be dope to see a rookie like her on that stage. But man, I'm sorry. This team is stacked. I love it. I would have loved to assemble that team myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fire. It's fire. And like I said, it's always good to see the best players in the league. They team up this summer and they show you why we're the best in the world. And the team looks amazing and it has all the tools to bring home the gold. Like, I'm already getting excited. Honestly, you get that feeling back. You kind of get that arrogant feeling, honestly, where you're like, oh, I just know we gonna get the gold. This doesn't matter who gonna get silver and bronze because we gonna get the gold, right? So it's always good to have confidence in Team USA in that regard, knowing that like we just so dope, we're gonna demolish the competition. So I'm excited for that for sure. But man, 3 verses down, and I must say, I really enjoyed talking about the W today. It seemed to go by so fast. It always does. But so much so, I couldn't leave you hanging. I'm finally back with a dog of the week, WNBA edition. And after considering De'Erica Hamby, who as I mentioned before, is having her best year as a pro, Arike Ngumawale, who's been filling up the stat sheet, and Kalia Copper, who is also having a career year herself so far. After considering those three women, I just had to go with, oh, wait, let me think about it some more. No, I'm messing with you. I had to go with Arike Ngubewale for this week's Dog of the Week. I mean, man, you talk about a professional scorer. I mean, I had to give it to arguably the best bucket getter in the entire league. I mean, her team may be on a losing streak. And for that reason alone, I almost went with Kalea Copper. She had some 30-point games, but at the same time, she kind of slipped off a little bit. Her team is better, but she kind of slipped off a little bit because, again, they have so much depth on that team offensively. But man, the numbers Arike has across the board, I mean, at the time of this recording, in her last 5 games, she's averaging 25, 5, and 6, and 4 steals. She plays a lot of minutes for her team, and she gives her all on both ends, clearly. So I definitely wanted to show her some love, especially while playing for a team that won't get as much shine from mass media. But Arike just continues to be that old school gunner, professional scorer we all knew she could be. She's got a crazy quick release, which makes her shot almost impossible to block. She's fantastic off the dribble. She's got a little bit of that Simone Augustus wiggle to her, with the handle. And then, she can also slash to the rim on occasion and create space for the jumper. Like, her handle sets up everything for her. She does a lot of damage from three, but she is more than capable of shooting the midi as well. Like, she's just the definition of a bucket getter. Like, I'm glad I don't have to guard her because that does not look fun. That does not look fun. And, I hope Dallas can get her some help very soon. But man, for now, we can enjoy the show that she's been putting on individually, proven to be one of the best players in the league. And that's exactly why she's this week's H2DG Dog of the Week. And woo, with all that said, we've made it to the end of the episode. Man, I should definitely do some more WNBA coverage in the future. From standout teams to standout rookies and continued growth. The WNBA has a very bright present and a very bright future in store. But as always, at the end of the day, these were just my thoughts. So I most definitely want to hear from you as well. You can tweet the show at Hip to the Games or tag me directly on Twitter or IG at Desmond Powell _ and share your thoughts with your boy on any of the topics discussed today, as I would love to hear or read your thoughts. As always, I want to say thank you for listening to another episode of H2DG, all for the love of the best combo there is. And of course, here's a huge shout out to you for being hip to the games. All right, just because the NBA is done, don't mean there ain't good basketball. Great basketball still being played and showcased. I support the WNBA, man. Come on now. We gotta support our the young ladies doing their thing and supporting our women and continue to just show up for great basketball, man. Again, it's always gonna be in a fun, exciting future. We're on this journey up with the WNBA, so it's always gonna be good to see their continued growth. So like I said, keep calm, peace out, God bless, support the W, and I'm out. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Hip to the Games, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit up the socials at Desmond Powell _ and at Hip to the Games on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok so you don't miss out on the fun. And please follow or subscribe to the show and leave a review on the podcast platform you're on right now, as your support is greatly appreciated.